The summer sun was bright over the small farming village, where the air always smelled of warm soil and ripening grain. Life there was simple. Wooden houses stood close together. Smoke from cooking fires rose into the sky, and children ran barefoot through fields chasing each other until their laughter echoed across the land. Among those children were a boy named Aaron and a girl named Mira. Aaron was a dreamer. While other children talked about planting or fishing, Aaron spoke of the stars. He often lay on the grass at night, pointing at the sky and telling Mira that one day he would see what was out there. Myra laughed at him every time. She was practical and steady, always helping her family with daily work. She loved listening to Aaron's stories, but she thought they were just that, stories. One afternoon, after hours of playing near the stream, the two sat under a large oak tree. Aaron's knees were scraped from climbing rocks, but he did not seem to care. He picked up a small stick, drawing shapes in the dirt. He drew circles and lines that to Myra looked like nonsense. "What are you making?" she asked, brushing dirt from her hands. "These are stars," he answered proudly. "One day I will travel there. And when I grow up, Mira, I will marry you. I promise." Myra's cheeks turned pink. She pushed him gently on the shoulder, shaking her head. "You are silly, Aaron. We are just children. You say too many things." Aaron did not laugh. His eyes were serious in a way that surprised her. "I mean it. I will come back for you. You will see." For a moment, Mira stared at him, wondering if he truly believed the words he said. She finally smiled, deciding it was only a game. She got up, brushed her dress clean, and said, "Fine. Then when you come back from the stars, I will see if I believe you." Aaron stood as well, raising his hand as if he were making a vow. I will not forget." The evening bell from the village rang, calling them home for supper. The two children ran back along the dirt path, their laughter chasing the last rays of sunlight. Days passed, and the promise became something Mira thought of often, but never spoke about again. She still met Aaron by the stream, still listened to his wild dreams of ships that could fly without wings, but deep down she believed he was only pretending. Yet, a small part of her heart kept the words close. Then, everything changed. One night, while the village slept, the sky filled with a strange light. It was not lightning or stars, but glowing streaks of blue and white moving quickly across the heavens. Dogs barked, roosters crowed, though it was not morning, and villagers stepped out of their homes in confusion. Mira, startled by the noise, ran outside with her parents. She looked up and saw the lights forming a wide circle above them. Her father whispered in fear, "The heavens are angry." But Aaron was already running toward the fields, his eyes wide with wonder instead of fear. Mira chased after him, calling out, "Aaron, wait." The ground trembled softly as a massive shape descended. It was larger than the tallest hill and brighter than the full moon. Metal gleamed under strange lights, and the air hummed with energy that made Myra's hair stand on end. The villagers screamed and backed away, clutching each other. Aaron stood tall, staring at the enormous ship. "I knew it," he whispered. "They came from the stars." The ship opened, and a path of light stretched from its belly to the earth. Figures stepped out, tall beings with smooth armor and shining eyes. Their movements were calm, not threatening, but they carried an air of great power. The villagers dropped to their knees, praying or weeping. Myra's mother pulled her close, but Myra's gaze was fixed on Aaron. He walked forward, unafraid, as if he had been waiting for this moment his whole life. One of the armored beings pointed at him. A voice rang out, deep and strange, yet somehow clear in the minds of everyone who heard it. "This one will come with us." Panic filled Myra. She broke free from her mother's arms and ran toward Aaron. "No, you cannot take him. He belongs here." Aaron turned to her, and for a moment his face was both excited and afraid. He grabbed Myra's hand. "Remember my promise. I will come back." Mira shook her head, tears in her eyes. "You cannot leave. You are only a boy." But the beings surrounded Aaron. One touched his shoulder, and in an instant, his body was lifted into the air. Mira tried to hold on, but her small hand slipped. Aaron looked down, his voice steady even as he was pulled into the ship. "I will return, Mira, I swear." Then the light swallowed him. The ship rose higher, engines roaring like thunder. The villagers covered their ears, shielding their eyes from the blinding glow. With a burst of fire, the ship shot into the sky and vanished among the stars, leaving silence behind. The night was darker than ever. Myra stood frozen, her hands still reaching upward. She could hear her mother calling her name, but her heart was too heavy to move. Aaron was gone. The village spoke of the event for weeks. Some said the boy had been chosen as a sacrifice. Others claimed he would never return. But Myra held on to the memory of his words. He had promised her. Every night, she sat by the stream where they used to play, staring at the sky. She searched for any sign of light, hoping she would see him again. Though she did not fully believe in stars or ships, she could not forget the seriousness in his eyes that day under the oak tree dot. And so, while the world went on, Myra waited. She grew older, but the promise of a boy stayed alive in her heart, a quiet flame that no one could put out. For she knew that one day, the stars would return, and with them, perhaps, Aaron. Aaron opened his eyes to find himself surrounded by silver walls that curved like waves of light. The air was cool and clear, humming with a faint energy. He sat up on a soft bed, but it was not made of wood or straw. It looked alive, as though it had grown from the floor itself. He remembered Myra's face, her tears, and his own promise. The memory struck him harder than the fear of this new place. He touched his chest and whispered, "I will come back." The door slid open without sound. One of the tall beings entered. Its body was covered in smooth white armor that glowed faintly, but its face was human. Its skin was pale, its eyes silver like moonlight. The being spoke in a calm voice. "Do not fear, Aaron. You are safe here." Aaron stood, his legs shaking. "Who are you? Why did you take me?" The being tilted its head, as if studying him. "We are the travelers. Long ago, we too came from Earth, but we left when your world was young. We saw in you a spark, a mind that looks upward when others look only at the ground. We will teach you." Aaron wanted to shout, wanted to demand to be taken back, but something in the being's words reached him. Since he was small, he had dreamed of stars, and now he stood among them. Still, he clenched his fists. "I will learn, but I must return to my village. I must return to Myra." The being's silver eyes softened. "One day, when you are ready." From that day forward, Aaron began his life among the travelers. Their ship was vast, larger than any city he had ever imagined. Gardens grew inside, domes of glass. Rivers flowed through bright halls. The people moved quietly, their steps light, their faces calm. They lived not in fear, but in harmony with the machines around them. Aaron was given a teacher named Solon, an elder with hair like white threads and a voice deep as thunder. Solon guided him through lessons each day. The first lessons were about language. The travelers spoke with sounds and symbols far beyond his understanding. Aaron struggled, but Solon was patient. Slowly, he learned to read their glowing texts, to speak their words. Next came the lessons of stars. Solon showed him maps of galaxies, each point of light a sun with its own worlds. Aaron listened in awe as Solon explained how ships bend space to leap from one star to another. "Space is not empty," Solon told him. "It is a sea, and we sail it." Aaron's eyes burned with wonder. He remembered lying on the grass with Mira pointing to the same stars. Now, they were no longer distant mysteries. They were places he might touch. Years passed. Aaron grew taller and stronger. His hands, once used for carrying buckets of water, now learned to guide energy through glowing panels. He built small machines that floated in the air, machines that healed broken tools, machines that lit entire rooms with the touch of a hand. The travelers respected him, though they still saw him as young. Solon often said, "You learn quickly, because your heart is open. But do not forget where you came from, Aaron. That is your greatest strength." Aaron never forgot. Each night, when lessons ended and silence filled the halls, he walked to a viewing dome. There, stars stretched across black space in endless beauty. He pressed his palm to the glass and whispered Myra's name. He imagined her by the stream, waiting. That memory gave him strength to keep going. One day, Solon brought him to a chamber filled with strange machines. In the center stood a chair made of shining stone. "This is the seat of memory," Solon explained. "It will show you not just knowledge, but wisdom. Are you ready?" Aaron nodded, though his heart pounded. He sat in the chair. Light rose around him, filling his eyes with visions. He saw wars among stars, battles of fire where ships shattered like glass. He saw worlds healed by peace, cities glowing brighter than suns. He saw the endless cycle of rise and fall, the beauty and the sorrow of countless lives. When the vision ended, tears ran down his face. He whispered, "So much. And yet my village knows nothing of this." Solon placed a hand on his shoulder. "That is why you were chosen. You will carry both the innocence of earth and the wisdom of the stars. One day, you must decide how to use it." Years turned into more years. Aaron became a man. His hair grew longer, his shoulders broad. He trained with the travelers' guards, learning how to fight with staffs of light and how to command ships that moved faster than sound. He was no longer the boy who once scraped his knees on rocks, but no matter how strong or skilled he became, his heart never strayed from his promise. Every triumph reminded him of Myra's smile. Every lesson reminded him of his vow. He told himself again and again, "I must return. I promised her." At times, the travelers warned him, "Your earth is still young. To return now would bring chaos. They are not ready for our knowledge." Aaron listened but held his silence. Deep inside, he knew the time would come. He felt it like a fire in his chest. One night, while standing at the dome, he saw Earth on the star maps. A blue world, small compared to the endless void, yet more beautiful than all others. His hand trembled as he reached out to touch its image. "Myra," he whispered, "wait for me. I will come back." And, though years had changed him, though stars had filled his life, the promise of a boy still lived in the heart of the man he had become. The seasons passed, and Mira grew from a young girl into a woman. The village changed with her. Fields that once stretched green and wide became dry under the harsh sun. The air, once sweet with grain, often carried the smell of smoke. It was not only the earth that grew weaker, but the hearts of people as well. When Mira was still young, the skies had opened again. But this time, the ships that appeared were not the same as the ones that had taken Aaron. These were darker, larger, and they came with demands. Their voices boomed through strange machines, speaking words that every human could understand. They wanted food, water, metals, and fuel. They claimed Earth as theirs. At first, humanity tried to resist. Soldiers fired their weapons at the massive ships. Nations joined together to fight. But the enemy's strength was beyond imagination. Their weapons were beams of light that could shatter stone walls in seconds. Their machines walked on long legs taller than houses. Their fighters moved through the sky faster than the eyes could follow. It did not take long before resistance turned into survival. Some cities were burned. Others surrendered quickly, offering all they had in exchange for safety. In small villages, like Mira's, people hid and hoped the strangers would not notice them. Mira never forgot the night Aaron was taken. While others feared the stars, she looked at them with a quiet longing. She often walked to the stream where they once played. She sat under the oak tree, staring at the sky, whispering, "You promised, Aaron. You said you would return." But as the years passed, her hope was tested. Raiders who served the invaders came often. They forced families to hand over grain and animals. If the villagers gave less than expected, punishment followed. People whispered that humanity's spirit was dying. Myra, however, refused to let despair guide her. She learned to be strong. She helped lead the younger children, teaching them where to hide when raids came. She gathered the women to store food in secret places underground. She stood beside the men when the time came to defend the fields, even though they had little more than old rifles and farm tools. Still, the losses were heavy. She saw families leave their homes, carrying what little they could on their backs. She saw neighbors taken away by the raiders, never to return. And every time, the same question burned in her heart. Where was Aaron now? One evening, as she carried water from the stream, Myra heard whispers among the villagers. A group of strangers had arrived, not from the sky, but from across the land. They called themselves the Resistance. The Resistance was not large, but they carried themselves with courage. Their clothes were patched and worn, yet their eyes were sharp. They spoke of hidden camps, of stolen weapons, of secret battles fought in the shadows. They told the villagers that Earth was not finished. Humanity was still fighting. Myra listened carefully. She asked questions, and soon they saw her spirit. "You are brave," one of the leaders said to her. "We need people like you. Will you join us?" Her parents begged her to stay. The village needed her. But Myra knew that her place was no longer only at the stream or the fields. She thought of Aaron's promise. He had gone to the stars to gain strength. If he returned one day, she wanted to stand beside him, not behind him. She wanted to fight for her people, just as he would. So Myra joined the resistance. Her days became filled with movement and danger. She learned how to use weapons, how to move silently through forests, how to build traps to slow enemy patrols. She learned to read maps, to send signals with light, to listen for the sound of engines before they were too close. The resistance camps were hidden, deep underground or in broken ruins. Fires were kept small, voices low. Yet despite the hardship, there was hope in those places. Men and women from every part of Earth gathered together. Farmers, teachers, soldiers, even children too young to fight, all carried the same determination. They wanted freedom. Myra rose among them quickly. She had sharp eyes and a clear voice that gave others strength. In battles, she stood firm. In planning, she spoke wisely. Many began to look at her as a leader, but at night, when the camp was quiet, she still thought of Aaron. She remembered his hand slipping from hers, his voice calling out, "I will return." The memory gave her comfort, but also pain. How many years had it been now? Was he alive somewhere, among the stars he had dreamed of, or had the travelers forgotten him? Sometimes, when she looked at the night sky, she thought she saw a flash of light moving between the stars. Her heart leapt, but the light always faded, leading her in silence. The war on Earth grew worse. The invaders tightened their grip, building tall towers in the great cities and sending patrols across the lands. They took what they wanted and gave nothing in return. The resistance struck where they could, destroying supplies, cutting power, rescuing prisoners. Each victory was small, but each one reminded humanity that they had not surrendered yet. One winter night, Mira and her group carried out a raid on a supply convoy. They attacked in the forest, striking quickly before slipping away. The battle was fierce, and Myra's arm was cut by flying metal. But her heart was steady. She led her people out safely, carrying stolen food back to the camp. As they rested, one of the fighters asked her, "Myra, why do you fight so hard? What gives you such strength?" She paused, looking at the fire. Then she answered softly, "Because someone once promised me that he would return. If he comes back, I want him to find us still standing, not broken." The fighter did not know what she meant, but he nodded with respect. Myra looked at the sky once more. The stars seemed far and cold, but in her heart she believed they held her answer. Somewhere out there, Aaron was growing, learning, becoming stronger. And one day, when Earth needed him most, he would return. For now, she would fight. She would wait. She would keep the flame alive. Aaron stood at the center of the Traveler Council. The chamber was high and filled with shining crystal pillars. Silver lights moved along the walls, alive like water. Around him sat the elders, their faces calm and wise, but their eyes sharp with judgment. He had waited many years for this moment. His voice was steady, but inside his chest, his heart pounded like a drum. "My teachers," Aaron said, "you have given me knowledge and strength. You have shown me the stars and their endless roads. But I must return to Earth. My people are in danger. I can feel their pain even from here. It is time." The elders exchanged long looks. Finally, Solon, his old teacher, rose and spoke. "You have grown, Aaron. You have learned much. Yet Earth is not ready for what you carry. If you return, your knowledge may bring both hope and destruction." Aaron did not bow his head. His eyes burned with determination. "Then I will carry it with care. My people are not weak. They only need a chance. If I do nothing, they will lose their world. I cannot let that happen." Silence filled the chamber. Then Solon stepped forward, placing a hand on Aaron's shoulder. "I knew this day would come. Very well. If you choose this path, it is yours to walk. But remember, every choice has a cost." The other elders slowly nodded. One by one, they gave their approval. The council ended, and Aaron felt both joy and weight in his heart. The time had come. In the days that followed, he prepared for his journey. He entered the shipyards, where great vessels rested like sleeping giants. He studied their designs, their power. With the blessing of the elders, he was given one of the finest ships, crafted with both traveler wisdom and human touch. Ship was sleek, its hull silver like flowing water. Its heart was powered by a core of living energy, bright as a star. Aaron named it Promise, for the vow he had made as a boy. He trained with a crew of machines built to serve and protect. They were not alive, yet they moved with skill and loyalty. He programmed them himself, giving them not just commands but spirit. "You are not only my crew," he told them. "You are guardians of my home." On the night of departure, Solon came to see him. The elder carried a small crystal that glowed with soft light. "Take this," Solon said. "It holds the wisdom of our people. Use it not to rule, but to guide. And never forget who you are." Aaron bowed deeply, holding the crystal close. "I will not fail." The Promise rose from the docks, engines humming with quiet power. The stars opened before him, and with a burst of light, the ship leapt into the great sea of space. Aaron stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the blue dot ahead. Earth waiting. Mira was waiting. The journey through the void was long, but Aaron did not rest. He trained with his machines, tested the weapons, and sharpened his mind. He imagined the battles to come. He imagined the face of Myra, wondering how much she had changed. Finally, after years of absence, the blue and green sphere of Earth filled his view. But it was not the world he had left. From orbit, he saw the scars of war. Great cities lay in ruins. Smoke rose from broken lands. And above the planet, black ships of the invaders floated like vultures. Aaron's fist tightened. They have taken too much. No more. The promise entered the atmosphere, glowing like a comet. Across the land, people looked up, pointing in shock. Some thought it was another enemy. Others prayed it was a sign of hope. The first place Aaron went was the land of his childhood. He guided the ship toward the village where he had been born. His heart ached as he saw it from above. The fields were no longer green. The houses were worn, patched with scraps. But he also saw movement, signs of life. His people had endured. The ship landed in the open field. Dust and wind swirled as the engines cawed. Villagers gathered, their eyes wide with fear and wonder. Weapons were raised, though they shook in weak hands. The door opened and Aaron stepped down. He wore armor shaped from starlight, smooth and strong, yet light upon his body. His eyes carried the wisdom of the travelers, but his heart beat as one of earth. The people gasped. Some whispered, "An angel." Others muttered, "A trick." But Myra, standing among them, knew. She pushed through the crowd, her eyes locked on him. The years had changed her, yet her face still carried the same fire. Aaron felt his breath catch as he saw her. She was no longer the girl by the stream, but a woman who had endured storms. "Aaron," she whispered, her voice trembling. He smiled, a smile filled with both sorrow and joy. "I told you I would return." For a moment, the world seemed still. Then Myra stepped forward, her hand shaking. She reached out, touching the armor on his chest as if to make sure he was real. Tears welled in her eyes. "You kept your promise," she said. Aaron nodded. "And I came not only for you, but for all of us. No more will we kneel. No more will we hide. We will stand." The villagers listened in silence, their hearts torn between fear and hope. Myra turned to them, her voice strong. "This is Aaron. He has come back for us. Do you not see? The time to rise is here." A murmur spread among the people. For the first time in years, a spark of courage lit their eyes. But even as hope grew, shadows loomed. The enemy ships above had noticed the arrival of the promise. Engines roared in the distance. The invaders would not ignore this challenge. Aaron looked to the sky, then back to Myra. "Gather your fighters. I will lead, but I need your voice among them. Will you stand with me?" Myra's eyes shone. "Always." The two stood side by side, the boy and the girl who once played by the stream, now grown into leaders of their people. Around them, the villagers raised their heads, and above them, the dark ships of the enemy closed in. The promise of a child had returned as the strength of a man. The first battle for Earth was about to begin. The enemy ships circled in the sky like great shadows. Their engines rumbled across the fields, shaking the ground beneath the villagers' feet. Fear spread quickly, yet something stronger began to grow as well. Aaron stood tall at the edge of the promise, his silver armor shining in the fading light. Myra stood at his side, her hand steady on the hilt of her blade. "They will come for us soon," Aaron said, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "But we will not face them alone. The resistance fights across the land. We must gather them. We must unite as one." Myra nodded. "I know where to find them. They will listen if we speak together." The villagers gathered around, their faces worn with years of struggle. Aaron stepped forward, his voice clear. "You have lived under the shadow of fear for too long. I am one of you. I was taken as a boy, but I have returned as a man. I bring with me knowledge of the stars and the power to fight. But power alone is not enough. We must rise together." The people listened, their eyes wide. For the first time in many years, they heard words not of surrender, but of hope. Myra raised her voice. "You know me. You know I have fought with The resistance. I tell you this, Aaron speaks the truth. He has returned for us. If we stand together, if we unite with others, we can fight for our home. A murmur spread among the crowd. Slowly, heads began to nod. Fear was still in their eyes, but alongside it was something new: courage. That night, the villagers helped load supplies into the Promise. Grain, tools, and weapons were carried aboard. Children whispered stories of the shining ship. Elders placed their hands on Aaron's shoulders, blessing him. At dawn, the vessel rose once more into the sky, carrying Aaron, Mira, and a small group of brave villagers who chose to join them. The journey across Earth was unlike any Aaron had imagined. From above, he saw the scars of war more clearly than ever. Cities lay broken, rivers black with smoke, forests cut down to feed enemy machines. Yet here and there, lights flickered hidden camps where humanity still lived and fought. Mira guided him to one such camp. It lay deep within the ruins of an old factory, its walls cracked but strong enough to shield those inside. Guards raised their rifles when the Promise descended, but Mira stepped forward quickly. "Hold your fire," she called. "It is me, Mira. I have returned, and I bring someone with me." The resistance fighters lowered their weapons slowly. Their leader, a tall man with scarred hands, approached. His eyes narrowed at Aaron. "Who is this? Another stranger from the stars?" Aaron removed his helmet, showing his face. "I am no stranger. I was born on Earth, taken when I was a child. I have returned because I could not abandon my people. I bring knowledge and strength to fight the invaders." The leader studied him for a long moment. Then he asked, "Can you prove your words?" Aaron lifted his hand. A small device in his palm came to life, projecting a map of the sky above Earth. Points of light showed enemy fleets, their paths, their weaknesses. Gasps filled the camp. "With this knowledge," Aaron said, "we can strike where it matters, but I cannot do it alone. I need you, and you need each other. We must stand as one." The leader slowly nodded. "If what you say is true, then perhaps we have a chance. The resistance will hear you." For weeks, Aaron and Mira traveled from camp to camp. The Promise flew across mountains and deserts, landing in secret valleys and ruined cities. Wherever they went, they carried the same message: unity. Some camps were doubtful, believing Aaron's strength could not change the balance. Others feared bringing people together would only draw greater punishment from the enemy. But Mira's voice was strong, and Aaron's presence shone with unshakable resolve. Slowly, hearts began to turn. One night, in a hidden base beneath the ruins of an old capital, leaders from many groups gathered. The hall was lit by dim lamps, and the air was thick with tension. For years, these leaders had fought in silence, each believing their struggle was separate. Now, for the first time, they stood together. Aaron spoke first. "I know your pain. I have seen the scars on your cities, the tears of your people. The invaders believe Earth is weak, but they are wrong. You have endured everything and still stand. If you fight alone, they will crush you. If you fight together, you will rise. I do not ask for your faith in me. I ask for your faith in each other." The room was silent. Then Mira stepped forward. "You know me. You know, I have fought beside you in the forests, the mountains, the ruins. I tell you now, Aaron is not here to rule us. He is here to stand with us. I have seen his heart. He is one of us." The leaders exchanged glances. Then the scarred man from the first camp rose. "Enough fighting. Enough waiting. If we are to live, we must fight as one. I say we join." Others followed, raising their voices. One by one, they pledged their groups to the new alliance. At last, humanity stood not as scattered flames, but as a single fire. That night, under the broken roof of the hall, Aaron looked at Mira. "This is only the beginning. The battles ahead will be hard. But now we are no longer alone. Myra's eyes glowed with quiet pride. You kept your promise, Aaron. You returned, and you brought hope with you. Outside, the people of the Resistance raised their banners. For the first time in years, they did not whisper or hide. They shouted together, their voices echoing across the ruins. Above them, the dark ships of the invaders still hung in the sky. But now, Earth was no longer silent. Earth was ready to rise. The wind carried the smell of smoke as Aaron stood at the command deck of the Promise. Below, hidden bases buzzed with activity. Men and women sharpened their weapons, checked their armor, and loaded supplies. Children who had lived their whole lives under fear watched with wide eyes as fighters prepared for war. The alliance of Earth was no longer a dream. Camps from across the land had joined, and together they formed an army. It was not as large as the enemies, but it was united. Each fighter carried the same fire, the same will to stand for their home. Mira walked into the command deck, her steps quick and firm. She carried a map marked with symbols of enemy towers and patrol routes. Her face was serious, but her eyes held light. The invaders are gathering near the coast, she said. Their fleet waits above, and their machines guard the ground. If we strike there, we can cut their power lines and cripple their supply. It will not win the war, but it will show them Earth is not broken. Aaron studied the map. His armor glowed faintly in the dim light. Then the coast will be our battlefield. If we succeed, the people will see that victory is possible. Myra leaned closer. Are you ready for this? Aaron looked at her, his gaze steady. I have been ready, since the day they took me. But this is not only my fight, it is ours. The next day, the Alliance moved. From mountains, forests, and ruins, fighters marched to the coast. Hidden radios spread the call. Old tanks were repaired, captured weapons were carried, and the Promise flew above them, shining like a star. When the army reached the coast, the sea spread wide before them, dark and restless. Above, enemy ships hung low, their shapes like massive blades against the sky. Towers lined the shore, glowing with strange energy. The Resistance leaders gathered around Aaron and Myra. Some were nervous, but Aaron raised his hand. We cannot match their numbers, but we can strike their heart. Destroy the towers, and their fleet will weaken. The Promise will fight in the sky. You will fight on the ground. Together, we will break them. Myra's voice followed his. Remember why you fight. Remember your families, your homes, your land. Today, we fight not as villages or groups, but as one people. Today, we show the stars that Earth still stands. A cheer rose. It shook the air. Carrying farther than fear at dawn, the battle began. The Promise soared upward, engines blazing. Enemy fighters rushed to meet it, their wings sharp and fast. Aaron stood at the helm, guiding his ship with calm focus. Energy cannons fired, beams of light streaking across the sky. Explosions bloomed like fiery flowers. On the ground, Myra led the charge. Resistance fighters stormed the coast, their weapons flashing. They moved through trenches, through fire, through the shadows of giant machines. Arrows of light rained down from enemy towers, but the Alliance pressed forward. Myra shouted commands, her voice carrying above the chaos. She climbed broken walls, raised flags of Earth, and gave courage to those who wavered. Her blade cut through enemies that came too close. Her presence was like a shield, steady and unbroken. High above, the Promise twisted and turned, fighting 3 ships at once. Aaron's hands flew across controls, his eyes locked on the battle. His machines moved around him, responding to his commands with perfect loyalty. Hold the line, he told them. We cannot fall here. Beams struck. The Promise, shaking the deck, but the ship endured. Its armor glowed brighter, its weapons stronger. One enemy ship fell in flames, crashing into the sea. Cheers rose from the fighters below, giving them strength to push harder. On the ground, the battle grew fierce. The towers poured fire upon the Alliance. One after another, fighters fell. But the people of Earth fought with a spirit the invaders had never faced. Farmers who once carried plows now carried rifles. Children who once hid now ran with messages through the fire. Every person gave all they had. Myra reached the base of one tower. Its walls were thick, its glow bright, but she was not alone. Dozens of fighters joined her, carrying explosives stolen from the enemy. Together, they climbed the structure, planting charges at its weak points. With a thunderous blast, the tower cracked and fell. The sea shook as the energy line broke. Above, the enemy fleet wavered, its shields flickering. Aaron saw the opening. "Now," he whispered, guiding the Promise into the heart of the fleet. The ship's cannons roared, striking another enemy vessel. Fire spread across the sky as the great ship broke apart. The invaders' formation weakened, and the Promise pressed on, cutting through the chaos like a blade of light. On the ground, the fall of the first tower gave new courage. Fighters surged forward, striking at the next. Mira's voice led them, steady and strong. Another tower fell, then another. With each fall, the enemy grew weaker. The battle lasted through the day and into the night. Fire lit the coast, turning the sea red and gold. The cries of war mixed with the roar of engines and the thunder of explosions dotted last. As dawn broke again, silence began to spread. Smoke drifted across the battlefield. Enemy ships retreated into the clouds, their fleet broken. The towers lay in ruins. The people of Earth stood on the shore, tired, wounded, but victorious. Myra lowered her blade, her arms trembling from exhaustion. She looked around at her people, at the broken field that was now theirs. Her eyes lifted to the sky, where the Promise descended, landing with quiet strength. Aaron stepped down, his armor scorched but his spirit unshaken. He looked at Myra, and she met his gaze with a weary smile. "We did it," she said softly. Aaron nodded. "This is only the beginning. But today, we have shown them who we are." The fighters around them cheered, raising their weapons to the sky. The sound echoed across the coast, carried by the wind to every corner of the land. It was the sound of Earth rising again. For the first time in many years, the people of Earth believed not only in survival, but in victory. And in that moment, the promise of a boy had grown into the strength of a people. The morning after the great battle, the coast lay quiet. Waves touched the shore, carrying away the ash of war. Smoke still rose from broken towers, but the sky above was clear. The enemy ships had fled into the dark, leaving behind silence. Aaron stood at the edge of the sea, the wind brushing against his armor. His body was tired, his arms heavy, but his spirit burned bright. For the first time since his return, he allowed himself to breathe deeply. Earth was still wounded, but it was free for this moment. Behind him, people worked to tend the wounded and bury the fallen. The Alliance fighters, though weary, carried themselves with pride. They had fought the strongest enemy they had ever known and had stood victorious. Songs began to rise among them, songs of hope and strength. Mira walked across the sand toward Aaron. Her clothes were torn, her hair tangled with dust, but her eyes were steady. She carried no weapon now, only the weight of victory. She stopped beside him, looking out at the sea. "They are gone, for now," she said. Aaron nodded. "Yes, but they will return. They do not give up easily. Then we will be ready," Myra replied firmly. She glanced at him, her lips curving into a small smile. "You kept your promise, Aaron. You came back." Aaron turned to her, his gaze softening. "I swore I would. Every step I took among the stars, every lesson I learned, I carried you in my heart. You were the reason I never gave up." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind moved gently between them, carrying the sound of the waves. Around them, the people of Earth began to gather, their voices filled with trust and admiration for Aaron and Mira. In the days that followed, the Alliance worked to rebuild. Camps grew stronger, villages repaired their homes, and for the first time in years, laughter returned to the land. The promise became a symbol of hope, shining silver in the sky as it moved between towns, carrying supplies and protecting the people. But Aaron knew his task was not yet complete. One evening, he called the leaders of the Alliance together. They sat around the fire, the stars shining above. The battle at the coast was a victory, Aaron said, his voice calm, but it was only one. The invaders will return with greater force. We must be ready, not only with weapons, but with unity. We must stand as one people of Earth, not as broken groups. The leaders agreed. Plans were made for watchtowers, training camps, and safe routes across the land. For the first time, the people of Earth began to prepare for war with wisdom instead of desperation. Myra worked tirelessly beside Aaron. She trained new fighters, guided villagers, and carried hope wherever she went. Many began to call her the voice of Earth, while Aaron became its shield. Together, they were the heart of the Alliance. One night, when the work was done and the camp was quiet, Aaron and Myra walked to the stream near Myra's old village. The oak tree where they once played still stood, though its branches were older and bent. They sat beneath it, the way they had as children. Myra looked at him with a gentle smile. "Do you remember, Aaron? The day you promised me you would marry me when you grew up?" Aaron laughed softly, though his eyes grew warm. "How could I forget? It was the promise that carried me through every trial." "You were only a boy," Myra said. "I thought you were dreaming, that it was only words." Aaron reached for her hand, holding it firmly. "It was never only words. It was truth. I have returned, and I am grown now. Mira, I still mean it. Will you walk with me not just as the voice of Earth, but as the one I promised to?" Myra's eyes glistened in the starlight. She did not answer with words at first. Instead, she squeezed his hand, her heart speaking through the silence. Finally, she whispered, "Yes, Aaron, I will." The promise made by a boy beneath an oak tree was fulfilled by a man who had crossed the stars. The news spread quickly through the camp. The people cheered, not only for the union of Aaron and Myra, but for what it meant. To them, it was more than a vow of love. It was a sign that life would continue, that even in the shadow of war, humanity could build a future. Weeks passed, and the day of their joining came. It was not a grand ceremony in a palace, but a simple gathering by the sea where the battle had been won. Fighters, villagers, and children stood together, their voices lifted in joy. Aaron and Mira faced each other beneath the rising sun, their hands clasped. "I kept my promise," Aaron said softly, "and I will keep mine," Myra replied. The crowd erupted in cheers. Music rose, drums and flutes made from simple hands, yet carrying powerful spirit. The people danced, their joy echoing across the shore. For a time, the world forgot its scars. For a time, Earth was whole again. Yet even in celebration, Aaron kept watch. He knew the enemy would return, stronger than before. But now, Earth was ready. It had leaders who would not bend, people who would not break, and hope that could not be stolen. As the sun set on the day of their union, Aaron stood with Mira at his side, watching the stars awaken in the sky. They no longer looked like unreachable dreams. They looked like roads, waiting for humanity to walk them. Aaron tightened his grip on Myra's hand. "Together," he said. "Together," Myra answered. And so, the boy who once looked at the stars with wonder and the girl who laughed at his dreams stood as leaders of a people who had found their strength. The promise of childhood had become the foundation of a future. The war was not over, but Earth had risen. And with Aaron and Mira at its heart, it would rise again and again.